If y'all ever wanted to adopt a child, here's your sign not to get a white one. Dylan kills his adoptive family and then pretends to be a witness since he's the only survivor of the family murder. He tells Detective Miller, Detective Stanton, and Marcia from Angel Adoption Agency that the guy who killed his family seems like he knew his mom and describes what he looks like. But in actuality, his mama said she was going to beat his ass, so he locks her in a sauna and beats his other mama with a bat, then pushes the poor daughter down the stairs. These directors so diabolical they make the little man call Marcia Miss Dyson.
Yes, Miss Dyson.
1 year later, Angel Adoption Agency's Floyd Garcia tells married couple James and Carrie Reynolds that he thinks 10-year-old Dylan is a good fit for them because they're so full of love, and Dylan needs love. He says that although they don't have much information on his background, he is a good kid. And the previous family he was with has nothing bad to say about him because they all dead. 1 week later, James and Carrie welcome Dylan into their home, and they immediately fall in love with him since he's so sweet and polite. Carrie feels elated as Dylan calls her mom. While James shows Dylan his new room, Carrie signs the final paperwork with Miss Dyson. Carrie admits she did want a girl, but any gender, even non-binary, would have been fine considering it was difficult to conceive naturally. The next day, James and Carrie's widowed next-door neighbor and Floyd's ex, Diane Rowland, and Diane's 17-year-old daughter Melissa, drop by after hearing about the adoption. When Carrie says they don't know much about Dylan's family history, but it's okay because the adoption agency already did all the research for them, Diane warns her not to trust anyone. Diane and Melissa meet Dylan, and Carrie asks Melissa to babysit Dylan the next day. Upon leaving, Diane discreetly reminds Carrie to research more on Dylan. Suddenly, Carrie tells Diane to focus on that dead hair follicle to grow back.
On them dead hair follicles that you can't get to grow back. Focus on that, bitch.
At bedtime, the boy asks 21 questions. He asks James when he knew Carrie was the one. However, he gets so bored he falls asleep. So James goes back to Carrie and breaks her like a glow stick. The next day, when Dylan asks Carrie why they don't have kids, she explains that she has a condition that prevents her from getting pregnant. She says adopting him wasn't easy either, because they wanted to make sure that they could give him the best life possible. Carrie's wig is giving. LaToya Alley must have bought it for her. Soon, Diane informs Carrie that she asked Floyd about Dylan, but failed to find anything other than what's in his file. Diane also informs Carrie that her nephew Ryan, who's a couple of years older than Dylan, will be staying with her for a week while her sister Julie is on a cruise with her new boyfriend. This delights Carrie because Dylan will have someone around his age to play with. Later, Ryan, with Diane's gun in his hand, pranks Melissa, acting like he shot Dylan in the head. When asked where he found the gun, Ryan says that everyone knows Diane hides her gun under her bed and argues that it's not even loaded. He then adds that it was Dylan's idea. Melissa reprimands them and confiscates the gun. Melissa tells them that her friends are coming over for a swim and invites them to join. After Melissa leaves to change into her swimsuit, Dylan angrily asks Ryan why he lied about the prank being his idea when it was his. Ryan explains that he would have gotten in trouble if he admitted to being the mastermind, so he blamed him because he couldn't get into trouble. After all, he's the little adopted kid that everyone loves. Dylan tells Ryan to go ahead because he needs to go to the bathroom first, but then he watches Melissa change into her swimsuit. When Melissa catches him, he apologizes and explains that he was looking for the bathroom, and all he saw was her backside. Little man is a pervy boy. When Dylan goes to the pool in his swimming trunks, Ryan asks him about the horrifying scars on his knees and legs. Dylan shares with Ryan and Melissa that he got into an accident when he was little. A pot of grease spilled on his legs when his dad was cooking, but he couldn't remember much anymore. The truth is, when a starving Dylan asked his abusive birth father for food, his dad, who was cooking, threw the pan and everything in it at Dylan, burning his legs. Dylan screamed in pain. As he was repeatedly hitting him with his belt, Dylan's birth mother, Amber, intervened, prompting the dad to hit her too. He told Dylan he was the worst mistake of his life and left. When the sobbing Dylan turned to Amber, she told him to shut up and blamed him for his dad's behavior. She told him that she wished he had never been born. Damn, then you should have used a coat hanger. Days later, when Melissa asked Diane if she had told Carrie about Dylan's burns and welts, Diane says she's pretty sure they already know about it. Melissa says she doubts they know and urges her to tell Carrie because it's obvious that Dylan was abused. Diane says she researched Dylan's background but found nothing much about his birth family. She says they should just let it go because Dylan is now in a good home. Side note, but Diane is fine. The next day, Ryan, who's with Dylan, breaks one of the glass windows of the Pike Recreation Center for the thrill of doing something illegal. After getting caught, Ryan tells James, Carrie, and Diane that it was Dylan's idea. Dylan makes a false confession and apologizes. After Dylan leaves, Carrie apologizes to Diane and James says he'll talk to Dylan. Diane understands how chaotic it can get when kids get together, so she asks them to tell Dylan that it's okay. However, she tells her nephew that he's grounded until his mom gets back from her discounted carnival cruise. From his bedroom window, Dylan sees Diane and Ryan leaving. He hears Diane reprimanding Ryan because he should have been more responsible, given that he's older. When Ryan sees Dylan, he gestures shh to him. 2 weeks later, James and Carrie decide to adopt a girl, and in turn hope that it teaches Dylan how to be a good brother and some responsibility. Your son getting caught by the popo is probably the worst time to adopt another child. Soon, Ryan is found dead in the Rowlands' living room. Melissa tells the police that she was upstairs, on the phone with her friend when she heard the shot. Diane says she was at work when it happened. She explains that her late husband was a cop and he wanted her to own a gun for protection, but it was never loaded. James, Carrie, and Dylan arrive, and they are horrified upon seeing Ryan's corpse. Later, Carrie checks on Dylan, who shares that Ryan was the real mastermind behind all the trouble they got into, and that Ryan knew where the gun and bullets were. He blames himself for not being a better friend, and Carrie assures him that it's not his fault. Dylan sobs but smiles when Carrie isn't looking. He needs to get rebuked. The truth is, Dylan snuck into the Rowlands' home, confronted Ryan about his lies, and slammed his head on the table, rendering him unconscious. He grabbed his hand and placed the gun in it, then set his hand over his to pull the trigger to his head. That's the devil's child? Ryan's death causes Julie to hate Diane since she thinks Diane was negligent in leaving a loaded gun around the house. Dylan goes to hug Melissa, but the evil kid smiles. A few days later, the family warmly welcomes Bella into their home. He tries to touch her teddy bear, and she gives the same evil look he likes to give. Dylan quickly grows jealous of Bella as he feels like he has been replaced, so Dylan tries to intimidate her but fails. Finally, someone who can match his energy. One night during dinner, Dylan gets annoyed and tells Carrie her chicken looks dry and can see why she never became a real chef. He leaves everyone gagged, prompting James to assure him that they love him too and try his best to make him understand that he's not being replaced. Afterwards, Dylan tears Bella off their family picture. The next day, Dylan apologizes to James and explains that he had a sister when he was with his birth family. While they praised her, they treated him badly. After James assures him that they won't let anything bad happen to him, Dylan promises to try to be a good big brother to Bella. The next day, Melissa babysits Dylan and Bella, who are at the pool. When she leaves to go to the kitchen, Dylan encourages Bella to get in the water, saying it's not too deep. Bella tells him that Carrie told her to stay in the shallow end. Dylan holds her hand so she won't get scared while making her go to the deeper part of the pool. He lets go of her hand, and Melissa, who hears her scream, runs out to save her. Later that night, while Bella and James are at the hospital, Dylan tearfully tells Carrie at home that he told Bella not to go to the deep end, but she did when he and Melissa weren't looking, and the next thing he knows is that she's already floating. Carrie assures him that Bella is going to be okay and that they won't give him away because they love him. Dylan sobs but smiles when Carrie isn't looking. I'm gonna need Carrie to start looking. In his bedroom, while looking at Bella's photo, Dylan says that she should have died, that he hates her, and that he'll make everyone pay. Melissa tells Dylan that she doesn't think she should babysit them anymore because of what happened to Ryan and Bella. Dylan gets upset because he thought they could hang out more now that Ryan is out of the way and because he thought they were friends. He also says they made a connection when they hugged. Then he says Ryan deserved what happened to him because he's a bad kid. He then gets furious when he learns that she has a boyfriend and tells her that she'll get what she deserves like Ryan. Little man already an incel at his young age. Melissa tells Carrie that something is off with Dylan and that she thinks that it's a little more serious than sibling jealousy. She suspects that he might be behind Ryan's death since what he told her seems to be a confession about Ryan's death and a threat to her life. Carrie thinks she's having PTSD from Ryan's death and gets mad at her for blaming Dylan, just like how Ryan used to blame him. Unbeknownst to them, Dylan is listening. Since no one else has sense in this movie, Melissa calls Hatfield Elementary to ask about Dylan. The lady on the phone tells her that Dylan's is a special case, so she needs to contact the San Diego Police Department for more information. When Melissa calls the San Diego Police Department, Miller tells her that Dylan's case has been closed for over a year. He says Dylan's family was murdered in front of him, but the killer was not caught, so the case went cold. No one knows about his birth family, but Dylan told a few counselors that his father was very abusive and his mother let him do it. When asked if Dylan is crazy, Miller says Dylan has had several psych evaluations, which were all clean, but he has a gut feeling that Dylan is the killer. She tells him about Ryan's death and Bella's accident and suggests that he make his way up to Oakland and gives him their address. I ain't never seen Oakland look like their neighborhood. They must be in Oakland Hills. Dylan sneaks into the Rowlands' house and steals Melissa's dad's gun. Melissa informs Diane about Dylan's threat and indirect confession. When Diane is about to call the police, Dylan appears and tells them that all he wanted was a family that loves him. He says that he'll kill James, Carrie, and Bella, and that he's tired of killing his family. As it turns out, he shot his birth family and then set their house on fire. His birth family deserved it, though. Suddenly, Dylan shoots Diane and Melissa and then heads home. Melissa regains consciousness and calls 911, but dies after reporting the incident and giving their address. When James sees Dylan with the gun, Dylan confesses to his crimes and shoots at him, but misses. While pursuing James, Carrie and Bella arrive. Dylan pushes Carrie down the stairs, prompting Bella to run to one of their rooms. James knocks Dylan out with a helmet, then grabs the frightened Bella on his way to Carrie, who can't move. James assures them that they're going to be okay as he already called the cops. Miller, Stanton, and the other cops arrive. When they point their guns at James and order him to get on the ground, James explains that he's not the guy. It's actually the little shorty. Dylan descends the stairs and points his gun at the cops, prompting the cops to point their guns at him. Seconds after, gunshots echo around the house. And that's the end of the movie. It's like the movie Orphan, but for black people. However, the crazy kid is still white. What did y'all think of this one?
Hey, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe now and turn on the notification because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you'd like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.